What's up, everybody? This is Jaime with the Aguillon International Group at Keller Williams. And if this is your first time to the channel and you want to learn everything there is to know about living in San Antonio, make sure to tap that subscribe button and click the bell so you're notified every time I drop a new video. And honestly, we're getting so many calls, texts, and emails from people just like you who are moving and relocating to the San Antonio area. We absolutely love it. So if you're even thinking about moving out here, give me a call, shoot us a text, send me an email, whatever is easiest for you. We got your back when moving to San Antonio. Okay, let's get right after it. So pro number one for me. So before I jump into my pro number one, I got to give you some context on why it's pro number one for me. So moving to San Antonio from Hereford, Texas, a small little country town up in the panhandle of Texas, the biggest pro for me was the job opportunity. So when I moved here, I was a licensed medical phlebotomist. You might be thinking, Jaime, what the heck is a medical phlebotomist? Well, I'm so glad that you asked. So medical phlebotomist, all that fancy word means is someone who draws blood. They pop the needle in your vein, put the tube in, and the tube's vacuum just sucks out the blood. And we put those little things in a centrifuge, spin it all around, send it to the lab, and within a day or so, you get your results. So I did that for about a year in San Antonio, and I really liked it. I enjoyed it. But my thing was, I like to be out. I'm a people person. So being dressed in a white coat, lab coat all day in fluorescent light bulbs was just, it was a little much for me. And back home with one hospital and one clinic, there was hardly any chance at me getting a job for what I actually went to school for. So when I applied to work in San Antonio back in 2011, 2010, when most of the US was really suffering and jobs were like, there was so many people who were unemployed. In San Antonio, it was like the opposite. I had multiple call outs and interviews to work at all these companies. I chose to work with Quest Diagnostics, right located like just north of downtown. So that was a huge pro for me. It was so easy for me to get a job. The pay back then was pretty solid. It's what I went to school for. And looking back, I'm so happy that they gave me that opportunity, because without that job opportunity, I might have changed my mind and ended up just staying back home. And I would have been just surrounded by cows out there. So I'm glad I actually made the move. It was pro number one, and that's definitely the job opportunity. Before I jump in to pro number two, and even before I jump into con number one, because I've just talked about pro number one, I'm curious to know, what are some pros and cons about where you're currently living? Like if you think, well, I'm moving to San Antonio, what's bringing you here? Like I'd love to know about it. Drop a comment below. Tell me about where you're coming from. What are some pros that you're excited to know about here in San Antonio? Okay, so con number one. One thing that I've noticed and I've seen firsthand in San Antonio are the allergies. Like it's crazy, because back where I'm from, I really don't feel like I ever suffered from allergies, but there's something in the air. It might be the cedar, it could be the pollen, but every now and then, occasionally I'll get like this dry throat, like when I'm sleeping in bed, laying down with my wife. Like it's like the worst feeling ever. And there isn't much for me anyways that's actually cleared it up, but thankfully it doesn't happen often enough where it's a serious problem for me. But I know when it comes, it's gonna last maybe 2 or 3 nights, and then it just goes away. Like I've done things like drink hot green tea before I go to sleep, and that sometimes soothes it. But if you suffer from like cedar fever, check out H-E-B. Go online. H-E-B is a grocery store, by the way, here in San Antonio, just in case you've never heard about it. It's actually Texas-based, so it's in other places outside of San Antonio. Anyways, look for cedar fever cure at H-E-B. I think it's actually called like cedar juice or something like that, but it's going to be really helpful for you if that's something that you might struggle with when you move to San Antonio. So let's talk about pro number two. But before I get into pro number two, I got to ask you if you're a huge favor. I've made so many videos about what it's like living in San Antonio, helping you guys out. And the one thing that I ask for is, if you like the video, subscribe to my channel, drop a comment, do something that's going to help the YouTube algorithm recognize that this content's actually helpful. And then it's going to start sharing the video to more people like you who really need this information, because they're thinking about making one of the biggest moves in their life. I would so appreciate you. And as a thank you, here's a picture of a cute little kitty cat. Pro number two is affordability. Hands down, San Antonio has some of the most affordable houses in all of the United States. And I can tell you that if you look back at September, the most recent month here in San Antonio, the average price per square foot is $183. When you compare that to places like New York or California, where some of those prices are like thousands of dollars per square foot, your dollar stretches so much further here in San Antonio. So you can get more bedrooms, more square footage for less money in town. Now, if you ask someone who's local to San Antonio, they might tell you the opposite. Like I've got friends and family who live here, who are from here, and they're like, it's crazy. I cannot believe that one house is $350 when back in the day it was maybe $150. But if you ask someone coming from one of the coasts and be like, that house is only $350, man, that thing would have been like $900K back where I'm from. So housing is really affordable here. The other thing that's kind of ties in with that affordability is there are a lot of places to go grocery shopping. You've got Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Culebra Meat Market, And then HEB is probably my favorite and the most popular in town. And like literally, if you Google HEB and you look at the San Antonio map, they're everywhere. So no matter what side of town you live, where you're at, you're going to be close to grocery shopping. So you're going to save on gas because you're not going to have to drive across town. They offer some of the best prices on foods, vegetables, fruits, HEB brand chips. HEB has their brand of everything: paper towels, toiletries, chips, milk, like literally anything you can think of. And it's usually the best price in the store, and it's not too bad. My wife would say otherwise. She doesn't really like the HEB brand Doritos, but I love those. They're actually not HEB Doritos, but they're like Doritos, just the HEB brand. They're pretty fire. I think you should try them out. When you come, order them. Let me know what you think about it. If you've ever tried them, let me know. Drop a comment below. And maybe you don't like them, but that's cool too. I love them. So talking about affordability in San Antonio, whether you're moving to the north side, the south side, the west side, the east side, there are a lot of great pockets where you can find safe neighborhoods, good houses, good school districts, and not spend a fortune buying a home. But be careful, because if you're not, you might end up somewhere where you don't want to be, somewhere where the community just doesn't serve you. And it actually might be borderline crazy, street fights, gun shootings. You never know. San Antonio can get pretty nuts. Don't get me wrong. But overall, it's a pretty safe place to live. We've never had any personal problems. I'm a firm believer that if you just stick to yourself and you're not causing a bunch of problems out there, problems probably aren't going to follow you. But that's just a rule of thumb that I live by. And I mentioned this in a video I made not too long ago. Don't just buy a house because the house is everything that you want. That sounds kind of crazy, but trust me, there are some areas in town that are just not developed yet, where people are going and building brand new houses or renovating old houses, and the houses are awesome, but the community kind of is crappy. It may not be what you want. So if you're looking for something specific, that's what me and my team are here. We're the #1 relocating team in the area. We help you really narrow down what side of town is going to have what you're looking for in terms of budget, neighborhood amenities, location. All those things are important. We can easily hop on a Zoom with you. But the only way we can do that is if you reach out to us. Remember, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, whatever is easiest for you, literally days, nights, or weekends. We got your back. We want to connect. But enough about that. Let's get back to the pros versus cons. So con number 2, the bugs. Don't sleep on this. When I say con number 2, the bugs, hornets, wasps, scorpions. Oh my goodness. I got to tell you a story about it. So we got a property far west side of San Antonio. It's on 5 acres. It was really rural back in the day when we bought it, but now there's a lot of new construction development around it. So about 5 years ago, they were breaking ground on a 1,000 home community, just not that far down from us. I woke up one morning at 5 a.m., getting ready to go to the gym, get my workout in. I step into the shower, right? It's cold. It's the colder season of time. So I'm stepping out of the shower. I put my foot down. Oh my gosh. I felt this sting like I've never felt before. So me, knowing that we have scorpions, I assumed it was a scorpion at first because it was on the ground, right? Like you don't think a wasp or a hornet's going to be on the ground chilling. It was a wasp, it was a red hornet. Those big old sucker red hornets. I had no idea. I stepped on it. That sucker stung me and it didn't die. Like as soon as I put pressure on it with my foot, it got me with the sting and I was like, what the heck? I grabbed my foot. I was all hopping around. Like, good morning, right? What a way to wake up. I look at it. It's all swollen. Like, it was nuts. And the stupid hornet wasn't even dead. So I had to hunt it down and smash it for smashing on me. That was crazy. So don't sleep on the bugs. And if you're allergic, you want to figure something out, talk to your doctor, talk to a specialist, whatever you got to do. But yeah, that was nuts. And if you want to know another crazy story, hornets aren't the only things that sting you here. Scorpions, I think, kind of are seasonal. But at least out on the far west side where we live, we get scorpions every now and then. And they're not these gigantic scorpions. It could probably fit in the palm of my hand at biggest. So like maybe that much. But I had an English bulldog back at the ranch years back. And I noticed him like just pawing around, looking to see what was going down. He was actually after a scorpion. And sure enough, he was able to get it out with his paw. And he was kind of playing with it. And I was like, that's cool. He's probably going to eat it. The scorpion stung him right in the cheek. I felt so bad for him. He was all like, burr, burr, burr. But I felt so bad for him. So what I did, I ended up getting like this spray, like a bug spray. I sprayed under the cabinet to get the scorpion to come back out. And then I stepped on it. Rightfully so. If something stings your dog, you're going to have its back. But anyways, that's why I say it's a con. There are bugs here that I didn't see back home. So like back in Hereford, Texas, where I'm from, there's not a lot of scorpions. At least I never ran into them. There's a lot of flies back there, which thankfully San Antonio doesn't have too many flies. I mean, there are some flies, don't get me wrong, but it's not as bad as back home. And I think back home has so many flies because it's the beef capital of the world. Literally, when you're driving in, it can smell like cow duty. It is what it is. So yeah, that's gotta be con number 2. It's the bugs, but you can get over them. They're not there all year round, especially when it starts to get colder. That's my con number 2. So pro number 3, I feel like this is slept on. A lot of people really don't talk about it, but there are a lot of parks and places to go outdoors here in San Antonio. You got places like Fredericks Park, Phil Hardeberger Park. I think it's Jefferson Park downtown or Travis Park, one of those. but there are a number of parks. If you Google parks in San Antonio, you'll see a whole list pop up on the map. That's something I think is a huge pro for me anyways, because like I mentioned, I'm from a small town up in the panhandle of Texas. There's not a lot of parks out there, and it's just really flat land. So in San Antonio, we've got some hill country, topography. You can go hiking. Eisenhower Park is another one of my favorites. My wife and I have gone out there. It's been a while because we got a newborn, but as once he gets older, we're definitely going to spend a lot more time outdoors because it's great weather most of the time. And even though it gets kind of hot, I was going to mention that as con number 3. So just kind of moving into that a little prematurely. When it's not 110 degrees outside, like early morning or late evening, it's such a nice time to go outside and just enjoy it. So if you're moving from somewhere where you've got lots of parks, outdoor things to do, and you're just kind of worried you're not going to have that in San Antonio, I can tell you, you are going to have some options out here. It might be hotter here if you're coming from like somewhere where it's not as hot, but get over it. In the mornings, it's going to be good. In the evenings, it's even better. And then this time of year right now, October, November, December, January, and February, I would say those 5 months are some of the best times to be outdoors. You might have to put a coat on like me, a little light jacket or something like that, but it's a great time to take the family on a hike, just get some sunlight, get some rays. That's one thing that I say is definitely a cool pro about San Antonio. Lots of parks and trails to go bike riding. So if you're into bike riding, there are a lot of clubs. You can grab a bike, hop on a trail, and you can go for miles and miles and miles. So jumping into con number 3 about the heat, I got to tell you about a time when, actually, you know what? I think I'm going to share that story with you later, but it's opposite of heat. Think about rainy, cold, lots of water, flooding. I'm going to tell you about that, but just wait to the end. So for now, con number 3, it's the heat. Like I was just talking about a couple minutes ago, it can get really hot in San Antonio. The humidity levels can be like crazy. Some people would even say unbearable. I got to tell you, I really don't think it's as hot as my friends and family do, but most of that is because most of the week I'm at Lifetime Fitness in the dry sauna, and it's like 190 degrees in there. I think that's really helped me get used to the heat that San Antonio has to offer because I love to be outside. Like right now, if it was 90 degrees outside, 100 degrees outside, I'd go out black on black, just letting the sun just shine down on me, give me some good natural vitamin D. I really enjoy that. But if you're not too fond of the heat, that might be something that's a little challenging for you in the beginning. I definitely think after a year or so, you'll get used to it. So just be prepared for that. It's really hot in San Antonio during the summertime. But a pro kind of to that con is it's really hot. So it's almost always swimming season, swimming weather. There are a lot of subdivisions that have master plan communities with Olympic style pools, resort style pools. There are a lot of Lifetime Fitness. You can get a membership there and have access to a pool if your community doesn't offer it. But if you're looking for something that's going to offer a clubhouse, a pool, basketball, tennis, things like that, reach out to me because there are so many great neighborhoods in San Antonio that offer those things. So the heat could be nuts out here. And if you've got a vehicle, you're going to want to find a house with a garage. The reason I say that is because I'm so thankful we've got a garage. I can just pull my car into the garage, pull my wife's car up into the garage. So that way it's not baking in the sun all day long. Another tip I would share with you is if you have those visors that protect your car from the sun, I would get that because it's really going to help keep your car cool. One thing that my wife just can't stand about the heat here is if we're inside at a grocery store watching a movie during the day, or we're just somewhere in our cars parked outside, not under the shade, man, it heats that thing up. So when you get in it, you're like, woo, it's like a little sauna up in here. If you have a remote start on the vehicle, you're going to love that. I have a remote start, so I just click, click, boom, boom, and it turns the car on. Even if I'm just walking across the parking lot and my car's on for like 60 seconds, even that 60 seconds makes the biggest difference when you get into the car. So just keep that in mind when you're moving out here to San Antonio. Pro number 4, the food. I mean, what good video about pros and cons of San Antonio would be worth anything if we didn't talk about the food in San Antonio? San Antonio is home to like just so much culture, like Hispanic, Latin cuisine. I mean, they've got some delicious food out here. One of my favorite things about San Antonio is what's called a birria taco. If you've never heard of a birria taco, you're not alone. Like I mentioned, I'm not from San Antonio. I had no idea what a birria taco is. There's this place called the Taco Shop or the Taco Place, one of those two. I'll post a picture of it somewhere right here, the Instagram page. Anyways, best birria tacos in town, hands down. In fact, my sister and I made a video the other day. She was talking about like the number one reason you should move to San Antonio is for the birria tacos. They go hard in the paint. Now with that, I have gained some weight since I've lived in San Antonio. I'm not going to say how much, but somewhere around 30 pounds, something like that. But it's because of the food. I like to eat. I work out more now than what I had been. I'm getting back into the routine of things. So if you love to eat, you're going to want to get a membership. There are all kinds of gyms out here, locally owned, big ones, whatever you want, you'll find it here. If you don't want a gym membership, like I mentioned, the weather's really good most of the year. Go outside, go on a walk, go on a jog, go on a hike. Just get into the routine of walking around because we don't want to end up like Allen, Texas, McAllen, Texas, Supposedly, they're the #1 city in the US for obesity, and that comes with all kinds of problems. I don't want health problems. I hate to see my family with health problems, so I'm just gonna, little word of advice, get used to working out a little bit more, go on some walks, go on a hike, go on a bike, whatever you need to do to stay healthy and take care of your family. So talking about food, it's not just about the Latin cuisine here in San Antonio. In the medical center, that is a very culturally diverse location to get Lebanese food, Mediterranean food. Oh, the Golden Walk. I think that's technically Chinese. That's really good. But there's a place called Baklava. They got some of the best Lebanese desserts I've ever had in my life. Well, I'm being honest, I think those are the only Lebanese desserts I've ever had in my life, but they're delicious, like phenomenal. And then there's a place called Nara Cafe. The chicken and rice entree they have, I'm not sure what the exact name of it is, but it's like a hookah bar restaurant. That place is dope. I really like it. You got to try it out. If you're into that kind of thing, you're going to find it there. So people here in San Antonio, they're just like, oh, Mexican food. Well, yeah, there's obviously good Mexican food here, but there are so many other things that you might be sleeping on that you wouldn't expect from a place like San Antonio. So that's why food is seriously one of the big pros for me. That's the reason alone why I need to come here. There's food from all over the world. And if you love Latin cuisine, you're going to love it here. It's amazing. So let's jump into con number 4. But before we get started into con number 4, remember, I really need your help. The one thing I ask is that you like this video, drop a comment if you're liking any of the pros and cons that you're hearing. YouTube really loves that kind of stuff. It lets them know that this video is actually valuable and it's not just a bunch of nonsense that's not helping anybody. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. You're going to have an awesome day because you smashed the like button. Okay, con number 4 for me is the property taxes. It's not a secret. Texas has higher property taxes than a lot of other places in the US. It's a con, but at the same time, it kind of balances out because Texas also doesn't have a state income tax. So you're going to save money on that. When I say higher property taxes, you can get property tax rates as high as 2.9% in some areas. And on the reverse end of that spectrum, there are some places in and around San Antonio where you have property taxes as low as 2%. It just depends on location. So property taxes could make up as much as 3/4 of your monthly payment. Not 3/4, as much as 1/4 of your monthly payment. Just to give you an example, if you're buying a home here for like $400K, your property taxes are going to be anywhere between $8,000 a year to as much as $12,000 a year. Now, there are things like a homestead that you can apply for. It's free. Apply for it. You'll get it as long as it's your main residence and you live there. It's going to give you a discount. Veterans get really good discounts here. If you're 100% disabled, you're not going to pay property taxes. So even though that's a con, property taxes are a con here in San Antonio, there are ways you can get that a little bit down. And every year you can do property protest your taxes, see if you can get it down a little bit. But if you budget right, if you're frugal with your cash and you've got a plan, you're going to be fine. So don't worry about the property taxes too much. I can't take it anymore. I got to tell you, con number 5, I'm going to skip pro number 5 and go straight to con number 5. The flooding in San Antonio is out of control. I've got a really good friend of mine. He's a realtor as well. He was driving an Infiniti, an M-Class last year, and it rained. And he went through this one area of town where the flooding just, for some reason, the drainage is whacked there. It flooded. He was going to cross. His car literally got swept away in the rain. It was nuts. And that's not an uncommon thing here in San Antonio. It doesn't rain a lot. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to come here. It's not going to be like Houston where it floods and there's hurricanes and things like that. But when it does rain, there are pockets in San Antonio where the public water system and drainage system, it's just not built to withstand that amount of rain at a given time. So it can flood. There are some neighborhoods that you have to have flood insurance because a home's in a flood zone. Some of the major highways get shut down when it rains too much and it floods. Those are things that I'm kind of used to now. And once you know those areas, you can plan accordingly. If you have to drive through it, you at least know how to get around them. That's why I got to say con number 5 is the flooding here because the drainage system sometimes isn't the best, but it doesn't rain enough for that to be a real problem for me, because if it rained all the time, that would be a huge issue. But thankfully it doesn't rain as much as it does in some other places, but I had to share that with you. Be careful out here. And if you're driving a bigger vehicle out here, you might be in a better situation, just saying. But anyways, let's jump into pro number 5. So pro number 5 is the people. Hands down, San Antonio has some of the most amazing people in the world. I've been to Italy, I've been to Mexico, New York. I've been a lot of places. And I got to say, San Antonio has some of the most loving, caring, genuine people you're ever going to meet. And so much so that I've got a blended family. So I've got a stepson. I really don't see him any different than like my actual biological son. But his dad and I have a great relationship. I think we're a good example of just how loving people are in San Antonio. So we've got this co-parenting relationship. My wife and I have Asher, who's 5. We have our newborn Noah. Asher's dad, Trevor, is married to a girl named Callie. So they've got Asher, obviously, Callie's stepson, Trevor's son, and a daughter named Cammie. And they're expecting another baby. So we all co-parent together. Well, Callie, her ex, she has a daughter with him named Jose, and he's engaged to this girl named Crystal. So us three families have this co-parenting relationship that just works out so well. I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. We all coach the soccer team together, Asher's soccer team, me, Trevor, and Jose. It's nuts. And some people are like, how do you have such a good relationship? Well, number one, honestly, if you keep Jesus at the center of everything, things just work out. I'm a firm believer in that. So like, I'm not gonna say we don't have some differences every now and then, but like for the most part, we've got a great co-parenting relationship. So I gotta say, people is a pro for me. It's a reason why you gotta get your family here to San Antonio. Maybe you don't have that kind of situation with your co-parenting situation, but moving here can get you away from that situation. So that's why you gotta move to San Antonio. So that pro number 5 alone should be reason why you guys move out here to San Antonio. I'm super curious if you're making the move out here, if you're thinking about it, if you're praying on it, drop a comment below. Tell me what you're thinking about, why you want to move to San Antonio. Reach out to me. I'd love to hear more about what's bringing you out here to my city. And until then, we'll see you soon.